Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And like I said, when you have a guest on this many times, they don't really need an intro anymore. But we have Lindsey back on the podcast again. I don't know if it's like the fourth, fifth, or
Yeah.
sixth time. It's one of those. I mean, it's gotten to a point now where it's one of those times. But yeah, she's on here again to share what she's been up to. I mean, it's been over a year. It's like last September, I think we had her on now. So yeah, it's been over a year since we last had her on. And as you can see, she's still competing. Again, one of those guests where like you can't really say she doesn't compete just by looking at her. She's one of those guests where it just gives off that. But yeah, she's on here to share what she's been up to. And
Thanks,
again,
Ryan.
Lindsey, thank you so much for coming back on.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. Yeah, it's been a year since I've been on your podcast, and it's always a great time. You do a great job interviewing and letting everyone know what bodybuilding is like for women and the different divisions and things we go through in the sport and outside of the sport. Since I last spoke to you, I did get my pro card in women's physique division. Yeah. And I've competed twice at the pro level this year. And it is tough. It is so tough. It's brutal. But you know what? That's what you have to do to get better. I think it's important for competitors to continue to go back out and compete, even if you're like, okay, well, I know the deck is stacked against me. I know that I'm competing next to women that have done this for 8, 10, 12 years, but that's okay. It's only going to push you harder, and it's only going to challenge you in a way that makes you rise to the occasion. So I've been fortunate to do the Tampa Pro and the Savannah Pro, and I'm going to go do the Atlantic Coast show here in November.
Well, this is normally where I ask what the weather's like, but since I told her that my little brother lives out there in San Diego now, I'm not even going to ask because he has been the one that's telling me that, like, yeah, we've only gotten like 3 days of rain since I've been here in like May. But so I'm just going to skip that question because, good God, I mean, it's
Sunny California doesn't get much better than this, honestly.
And yeah, it is cloudy as all can be right up here now, and we're about to probably get a rainstorm. And we did get snow last week, but it didn't stick. But yeah, around this time last year, we got about 10 inches of snow, which was like the earliest it's been like significant amount. So we'll see what we do again this year. But before that, you got your pro card. First of all, what was that moment like when you were on stage and they announced your name and you realized, okay, I have a pro card now?
Oh my God, it was amazing. So, I crash coursed posing with Kenny Wallach. He helped me out with posing for women's physique. And when I say crash course, it's just like I am so strapped with my time in life that it's like I have to choose between either getting sleep, practicing my posing, or getting cardio. It's like what do you choose here? You know,
Is sleep the odd one out?
a lot of the times you just like go, okay, I can sleep later, and you do the work. And a lot of bodybuilders do that, and sometimes to a detriment because then we end up looking stringy and less full in our muscularity and size. But we all do the best that we can during our prep, and every prep is different. It's not perfect, but I was able to have a successful prep and compete at the Miami Nationals last December, achieved my pro card, and it was like amazing. It was just like, oh my God, okay, I did it. And I had a client there competing as well, bikini competitor, Summer Trinkle, and it was really cool. She caught the moment that I came back from the stage, and she was backstage, and it was just like, okay, like we did it. It was awesome to have my team there and be in Orlando, and yeah, it was a fun weekend for sure.
That is a great moment to capture it. I do gotta say, with like the lack of sleep, I become not a coffee addict, but now like every day when I go into work, even though I start work at 1:30, I still gotta have my thing of coffee. But it was to the detriment because before I really understood, because like I said, I'm a hyper enough person as is. When I had some of that coffee, one of my weeks when I was at work, I accidentally messaged like 6 people to come on the podcast because I was just so amped up that day that I was like, oh, I'm gonna get all this work done. I'm gonna do all this. Next thing I know, I've scheduled like 6 podcasts, and it's like I can't do all this in time. So then I learned the hard way that, I got to turn my phone off when I'm on coffee, basically, because the next thing you know, like I will be scheduling like 15, probably like one of these days, I might like just, I might just schedule. Yeah. So it was bad. Like I messaged probably like 20 people. It's like, hey, you want to come back on the podcast? You haven't been on like a year, blah, blah, blah. So, and then it was one of those things that it's almost like a hangover where you wake up the next morning and you're like, did I really just schedule all these podcasts with all these people that like I didn't? So everyone, again, you got to know your limits with that stuff. But again, yeah, it is just so
It
great.
happens.
Yeah, it is just so great that you won your pro card. And I remember it was a long time coming, and I actually did. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I did forget that you had won it from the last time that I had you on because, but then I did remember like you had a post about it, and then I was like, oh yeah, she won her pro card. So yeah, that's, and like you mentioned before, you are now the little fish in the big pond, and it is just a whole different sport. What was that like, sort of adjusting to that fact that like, yeah, you are dealing with people now where a lot of them sometimes this is like their entire lives where it's just eat, sleep, and train. How have you sort of adapted to the fact that you were competing against some of these people now?
You know what? I just try to take everything for what it is. I just try to really like live in the moment and definitely approach it with a sense of gratitude that I'm able to stand next to these women, learn from them. Pick their brain on certain things too. You know, we all have different things, different ways that we approach, even from mindset that we approach bodybuilding and prep and our purpose and our drive. So it's been really rewarding to mingle and just, be associated with this level of competitor. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's just seeing that dedication, especially at the extreme high of the sport. It really is just mind boggling. But I ask you this every single time: what is one area of your body that you've improved on the most since we last had you on a year ago?
Ooh, one area of my body that I've improved on the most. I think my quads. I think I've brought my quads up quite a bit in the last year. And I'm excited actually to bring them in a little fuller in a month in Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, definitely my quads for sure.
That's a good area to have, and I mean, also own your own gym. How's that been going? I think I had you on the last time when you already had the gym, but how's it been? This last year.
Yeah, so we're a year into the business. We turned a year June 1st, and it's going well. It's definitely work. It's still work. Owning your own business, it's fun, right? Because you get to put your own personal stamp on it and you get to bring your vision to life. But it's also there's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes on. So, at certain times it can be stressful. Most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's great because I get to do what I love. I get to go and motivate people, talk about fitness, talk about health, nutrition, and encourage others as well as, play a leadership role myself. So I enjoy it.
This is the only thing that I really remember from college, from a college professor, is I took like an entrepreneur class, and because I was a business major, and the one thing that stuck with me is that they always said, you start your own business. There are positives and negatives to everything. Either like working your regular 9 to 5, where as soon as you clock out at 5 o'clock, you don't have to worry about your job anymore. But then if you start your own business, it's 24/7 in your mind, at least, where it's like you're never not working. How have you dealt with that? Because I even dealt with that with the podcast, where it's like even when I'm not recording, even if I have all my stuff done for the week, I'm still thinking about ways to improve it or guests to have on and stuff, even though, like I said, it's a side gig for me. But how have you dealt with that? Because when you do become your own business owner, unfortunately, you just can't work that 40-hour week mindset because you are going to be constantly thinking about it regardless.
I give myself permission to check out.
Okay.
So, my dedicated work hours where I'm in the gym or on the floor, obviously I'm there, I'm on site, I'm working. And then if I'm here at home, I will carve out a little bit of time to sit down at my computer and do additional work. But once that computer is closed and I'm not, I don't have work right in front of me or I'm not writing notes or taking notes down on my phone or in a meeting, I shut it off because you can be too consumed with work and then your family life suffers or your relationships suffer and it's hard to achieve a work life balance. I don't think the word balance is going to exist for me until I'm finished with this competition season, honestly. It just if you want to be the best in this sport and you're also an entrepreneur, it's brutal. You just every waking hour, I mean, every waking hour from 3:30 AM sometimes to 11 PM. Those are the days.
Yeah, I can't imagine that it's even a work-life balance. It's more of like just not driving yourself crazy, basically. Is that's the type of balance that a lot of people are talking about? Because I've heard some people be like, "Yeah, I have a perfect work life balance," and First of all, those are like part-time workers. I've never heard one person with a full job actually say that like they have a work-life balance. A lot of people just lie and just say that they do, but it's a hard thing to juggle, especially when you have kids too. I mean, that's just a struggle in and of itself. And yeah,
Mhm.
more power to you. But I'm glad the gym's going well. I remember you gave us a tour on that one thing. That video's on the Patreon, everyone. I had to make that exclusive. So if you're paying your dollar a month, which by the way,
Awesome.
thank you. You can get a tour of her gym, which it is a nice gym. It is a nice setup, and I'm like I said,
Thank you.
I'm glad that things are going well. But have you mixed things up at all with your training or your nutrition since we last had you on? As you're now, like we said, the little fish in the big pond, have you decided that like, hey, I need to mix things up now to put on some more size?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good question. I'm not as concerned with size. I think I've brought size pretty well in my career, and I don't think I need to build out any more size per se. I just have been focused on getting better. So having better contractions through the movements. I had the opportunity to use a newbie is what it's called. So if you know what a newbie is, it provides a stimulus to the muscles. You put on these like little, I guess, electrode dots, and it's connected to a machine with wires, and it's used for like recovery from injuries to stimulate the motor neuron in the muscle cell to contract. And so it's stimulating this contraction like actually pretty sufficiently. The stimulation is pretty high depending on what you have it dialed into. So, it's like, I don't know, like you can go up to hundreds of contractions per minute. And what that does is it just strengthens that mind muscle connection really. So that was really fun, and it was a good experience for me. So um, that definitely gave me a better understanding, and sort of it changed my mindset on what I need to do to improve as far as like my physique is concerned. I need to make sure that my every workout I'm focused on a good quality contraction, that I'm not just, there's a difference between training and exercising. Are you training? Are you getting quality reps, quality movements? Are all the exercises that you're doing in a workout, are they all sync together the right way so they're stimulating the body where you want them to? Or are you just exercising? Are you just going in and doing burpees and push-ups and pull-ups and hoping that you're throwing it all together to make it work? There's a big difference, and some people don't understand that. But when you do and you understand what training for specific goals are, and physique goals are different than strength goals, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, the 20,000 steps that I'm going to get today at work, that's exercise really, where it's like, yeah, I'm not
I
training
love
for
it.
anything. It's just the excess stuff that's going to happen. And,
Mhm.
I'll probably, do some, there'll probably be some boxes that they need to get moved around and stuff like that. We have such a
Mhm.
small warehouse that literally half the time is literally just breaking down boxes and be like, hey, take 4 of these, 60-pound boxes and load them onto a thing and do that like 30 times. So then, yeah, you get it. You're not training for a specific thing, but it's just exercise. So yeah, I love that you brought that up. And I will say though, I did get swindled when I was about 19 years old. There were those commercials about those things. It was kind of like what you're talking about, except they were probably like the discount version of them, where it's like, yeah, you put them on your whatever muscle you want, and then it just contracts and it does that stuff. But I got the cheap version, like you could order online from like an ad when I was 19. I was like, oh, this is really gonna help, like with abs and stuff like that. So I did it. I bought them and I did it. And I think I did it too much because like I almost bruised myself because I did it for like half an hour at like the highest level for like abs and
Oh
back
my
and
god.
stuff. And so the next thing you know, like I woke up the next morning and it was like purple like everywhere. And it wasn't like after you get like your cupping where it's like it just lasts for like a day. It was
Yeah.
bad. So then I was like, yeah, I think I overdid these things. So yeah, the moment that you brought that up, I was like, oh yeah, my experience that I had when I was like
Oh my
19,
god.
19 in
Yeah.
college trying to do it. But so yeah, you definitely gotta read the labels on stuff. People, I don't really think I was that like into following instructions, especially with products like that back then. So again, yeah, do all that. But I'm glad you're able to find, because I have had like a dozen or so guests on and that have talked about that stuff too. That really seems to help too with when it comes to the contractions. So yeah,
The newbie's great. If you have any areas that are weaker or muscle groups that you need to bring up, definitely recommend training with a newbie.
yeah,
It's amazing.
I will definitely even look into that myself. I mean, I got one of those vibrating guns has really helped as well, just even with
Oh,
recovery
percussion gun.
too.
Yeah,
Oh my
definitely.
god, yeah.
Yeah, I love those too for leg days.
Again, everyone, no problem. I did put it too much on my tailbone one time, so then I did bruise my tailbone just a little bit because my back, I've bent I'm 27 years old, but still I bent over one time and I just felt kind of funny getting up. So then I'd put it down there for I was even doing a podcast one time when I was, doing this. And the next morning, yeah, it was just a little bruise. It wasn't too bad. So I am a glutton for like not really knowing that type of stuff. So, hey, it's you live and you learn with all that type of stuff, I guess. But like you just said, you got posing a little bit of posing from Kenny Wallach, who I mean, the guy's worked with everybody basically. I mean, I don't know how he has the time to do all that, and if he has any time management skills that he needs to,
He
release them to
has
the
an
public. But
amazing assistant,
okay,
and his assistant, yeah, definitely is like his right hand as far as scheduling and getting everything organized for sure.
but what was that like working with him? Because like I said, he's worked with everyone.
He's hardcore. He does not take any, you really can't make mistakes, any room for error. It's just like you better practice, you better make it um, almost robotic. You have to come with your A game because he will let you know where it's not to standard for sure.
What are some improvements that he helped for you, or that he might have been like, oh, hey, you can do this different? What are some tweaks that he might have given you?
Um, I think with taking the shadow out of like your front bicep and leaning your arms backwards, so tilting those elbows forward and making sure that you're really holding your hands closer to your head to get the peaks correct. I think that was a big one for me, and making sure that your elbow is parallel to the floor and not way up here. Yeah, that was a big one.
I will notice when she used to do like posing things for me, like her arms would go a little bit higher up too, like that too. So he had him even them out too, which is, I mean, it's always the little things too. It's just so fascinating how just literally like a tenth of an inch of like
Like
just
a slight
moving something.
rotation,
Yeah,
like you're right here, right, for a bicep
yeah,
instead of being right here, if you rotate backwards, look at how much bigger that arm is
yeah. It's
versus rotating forward.
it's just the little things too that are just so fascinating about, especially, the posing aspect of it. And yeah,
Mhm.
I don't understand how some people are just they just have a niche for it, and hey, more power to them. But nutrition, have you changed things at all with your nutrition?
Not really, Ryan. It's really standard. It's the same lean proteins, same carbohydrates. I'm not actually eating as much sweet potato or white rice. Well, definitely now being so close to show date, my carbs are like bare minimum, and like oats every once in a while, rice cakes every once in a while. And that's it. Yep, it's pretty basic. Egg whites, turkey, chicken, tuna. I just came back a couple weeks ago from Hawaii. I went to visit, Hawaii for a week just to take that time, for a family vacation because it's been a work year. I mean, literally nonstop. And then, I got to watch my brother get married in Maui. So while I was out there, still being in prep, I was eating, like, canned tuna because food is so expensive out there. So it was like egg whites and canned tuna and a little bit of chicken here and there, and that's about it.
Well, I was gonna say, don't they like love spam over there too? That's like what all I've heard about is that they just
Yeah, spam is pretty fatty, so you definitely, that would not be part of prep.
so spam was invented an hour south of where I live, in Austin,
No way.
Minnesota. Yeah, it's the spam capital. It's where they invented it, and it's where they have the biggest
Wow.
spam plant in the world. So, yeah, my dad grew up in a small farming town where, I mean, they lived off of spam basically. So I have never had spam myself, and I do not plan on having it just because of, just the connection of how close it is. Where I was like, I don't want to be that guy that like just has spam. So yeah, but what was that like staying on prep in Hawaii? Because when a place is that beautiful, I'm sorry, like it would be hard for me to be like, okay, I got to stay focused on this goal. But what was that like for you?
It was actually really nice because, being on vacation, I didn't have the same time constraints as far as like my day to day with work and running kids to activities in school and so forth. So that was kind of nice not to have like a demand on my schedule. So I was able to, get up, go do my fasted cardio, train, have time to prepare my meals. Fresh for the most part, not have to meal prep in advance and eat stuff out of Tupperwares. and then go in for evening cardio and maybe a little bit more training. So it was really nice actually because I didn't feel so under the gun with time. I was really relaxed, and I think my body loved it. My physique and just my overall body composition definitely benefited from not being so stressed out, and my cortisol levels were lower, and I was taking more walks. So you talked about getting 20,000 steps. I was getting like 15,000 steps a day, and my body loved it. Yeah, totally. Staying hydrated and getting sleep. All the things that you want to achieve while you're doing prep, I was able to do that. And then coming back, I noticed right away that my cortisol levels shot up. Like I was so much more full and I don't just kind of puffy, just a little bit puffier, just because of that retention in water, and you're not able to rest and recover and flush out all the lactic acid and process all the things just because your body is just like, in that anxiety stress mode of just enough.
Well, most importantly, was it stressful at all trying to find a dress for your brother's wedding?
No, no, yeah, that wasn't too bad. You go with the spaghetti strap, so you're not worried about stretching things over the upper body.
That's true. I mean, yeah, if you do the spaghetti straps, yeah, that might seem it wouldn't be as hard. But yeah, I've heard too many horror stories, especially if it's like someone getting if especially if it's the person getting married, where it's like, and then they're going on prep before then, so then they gotta like measure theirself and be like, okay, like minus 3 sizes of where I'm at right now because I'm gonna be on prep, and then it's just a whole different thing. So yeah, at least you could just be a spectator with that and didn't have to deal with that. But I'm glad. Hey, Hawaii, I've had friends that have gone there for weddings. I've never been invited to a wedding in Hawaii, so any one of my friends that are listening to this, shame on you. Now they weren't like close. They weren't close friends, so I wouldn't expect it. But still, it's like I have had friends that have gotten married, and it's just like, oh yeah, we'll get married in a town over from where we're at, and it's like, well, why don't we just go to Hawaii or something? Now I do have a wedding in Colorado, which is going to be nice
Oh,
up
that'll
in
be
close to the
awesome.
mountains in next summer, so that
Yeah, what
should be good
part?
as well. They're right by. It's I don't it's close-ish to Littleton where Columbine happened, which is kind of really weird, but like it's like half an hour from there, but they grew up in Littleton, so they're just doing it like up in the mountains close to it. So yeah,
Nice.
I don't again, it's
It'll be
always
gorgeous, you'll love it.
I know I've been to Colorado before. I went to one of my
Oh,
rally
okay.
monkeys up there, the Colorado Rockies, but I was so young. It was like probably like 15, 16 years ago that I don't remember much from it. But yeah, it is. Yeah, I've heard stories about, and I have friends that love skiing and they go there every summer too. But yeah, that is not every summer, every winter. But yeah, I can't wait to do that myself personally. But yeah, so I mean, you got back in into the shape of things. But yeah, the cortisol. So how do you deal with stress first of all? Because you cannot live a stress-free life, especially in your circumstances that you have right now with kids and with your job that you're running and everything else. But even if I were to take away all of that and you were just to be one of those people that just focuses just on bodybuilding, you have nothing else worried about in your mind, you still cannot be fully free of stress. It's just never going to happen. So how do you deal with stress? Because the effect that stress has on the body is completely understated to people who just don't understand that like stress can have such a huge impact.
Oh, it totally does. Like you could see it. I try to hydrate, sleep. I microdose with mushrooms on occasion, and that seems to help alleviate stress. Just focusing on what I can control. So mindset is definitely a big one, and training has always been a stress reliever for me. So if I'm really stressed and anxious, like a hardcore hit workout, something that makes me sweat, something that I can't allow my mind to wander, that I really have to focus on what I'm doing, is key.
Well, I'll just say that CBD oil just became legal in Minnesota. We still
Ooh,
don't even have legal weed, so it's still you got to do medical. But it's like so you mentioned mini mushrooms and like yeah, I'm not even one of these days maybe that stuff will be legal here in Minnesota. But at least enjoy them while you have them. But so is that like actually helped with just relaxing, or does it help with sleep too? Because I know a lot of people do some of that stuff just for sleep, but does it also help with your stress as well?
Microdosing mushrooms, is definitely more for that, like, a mental state. It's more as like a mood enhancer. It's considered like an adaptogenic, herb, and so or adaptogenic, I don't know if it's an herb, but, definitely a supplement, and so what it does is it affects your brain in a way that you are either less stressed, maybe you've got more endorphins flowing through. So just opening up those channels and allowing the body to relax. So
I would love to drive a forklift on that thing. Let me tell you. Then we'll see what happens then. But again, you're just explaining this to a hick from the Midwest, so who has no idea what you're talking about. So yeah, that is, hey, more power to. I mean, I wish I could, do some of that and not have to worry about getting arrested or something like that. So
yeah, it's natural, and you know what, Ryan? It doesn't cause like drowsiness, and if you're microdosing,
yeah.
it's a very very small amount. So that's not something that should cause any sort of dizziness, drowsiness, or lack of motor control.
Well, even this, the melatonin that I take sometimes causes me drowsiness when I wake up. That's why when I schedule these things, I always set my alarm for like an hour before the podcast starts. So if I get up, I
Okay.
might have like half an hour of just feeling a little drowsy before I finally, it
Mhm.
finally wears off on me. So yeah, I don't know how that would impact me. But yeah, even my mom was thinking about like I might need to do CBD oil because she has trouble sleeping now at night. So I just told her, I said, hey, it's legal now. You might as well give it a try. My older brother's been trying to convince her too, but she hasn't. She's been thinking about it, so hopefully one of these days, we can convince her to do
I
it.
feel like that's so common. I wonder if that was a thing, 20, 30 years ago before cell phone towers were up everywhere and we all had our 5G and Wi-Fi running through the households and stuff, if the sleep and inability to get restful sleep was a thing.
Oh, for her, it's only been like the last 6 months though that like it's gotten like bad. Like before, like she used to sleep like a baby, but like now she's like there have been times where I'll even say like last night. So I was in bed by like midnight, and then I got up at like 3 o'clock because I had to go to the bathroom, and then when I got up, she goes to bed like at like 8 o'clock, and then I get off work at 9:30. So then they're both asleep by the time I get home. And then when I went down to go get something to eat at like 3 o'clock, I just went to go, I went to just get like a little thing of Diet Coke or something like that, just because I was thirsty too. And then the light was on because she was watching TV, and then she might do that from like 3 to 4, and then fall asleep again till like 7. But like, yeah, so it's only been like the last like 6 months. So I think she went to a doctor and they recommended like just sleep aids or something like that. But yeah, the cell phones are ridiculous to me. Like that is the number one thing that has been keeping me up at night is either I'm watching something on YouTube or I'm just watching a movie or something. And the next thing you know, you're like, hey, I can't really fall asleep. It's like, well, because you were doing that till 1 a.m. and then you're not able to fall asleep till like 2 or 3 because your body just needs to decompress. So yeah, cell phones.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I cannot imagine how much easier the sleep schedule was when people did not have this technology to just constantly be focusing on. So yeah, it makes you wonder. The historian in me, it's like because I've always wondered, it's like how do people get up that early to do stuff? And it's like, well, when you didn't have the technology, things might have been, just a tad bit easier. But as you're getting ready for the show now, where's your mentality at? Or is it one of those things where like deep down you can tell me that like I still want to keep doing this right now for this prep, or are you at the mentality where it's like I can't wait for this prep to be over, where I can finally like enjoy myself? Where are you at mentally in this prep?
Mentally, no, I'm still very much committed. I still am like enjoying the process. I'm just tired, you know. I'm just fatigued. My body's a little fatigued right now. I haven't really taken any time off of training and bodybuilding, um, probably since January. I know. So it's been a long year, and I love it, and I am definitely fortunate that I'm able to do this, but I can see it, like, in my body, like, my alarm will go off, and it'll be, like, 2, 3 minutes before I wake up and turn it off, which it's right beside my bed, usually I'm, like, up and, like, "Okay, it's time to go," but yeah.
How do you deal with those low energy days, especially when you're at a job where you need to like be on? Because I can't imagine like if I was that tired and that depleted, like still having like, oh, I'm gonna be this happy go lucky kind of personality because this is me after I have food and after I do all that stuff. Like if I were to do none of that, like this might be a little bit of a different podcast, but do you just have like a group text messages with all of your clients being like, hey, I'm not feeling it today. Just don't even look at me, but we'll get this training done.
No, that's a good idea, though. Yeah, I do my absolute best, and my clients are just amazing people themselves, and, that's why I think we're working together and working together so well, um, because they are empathetic and they do understand what goals I'm trying to achieve personally, but yeah, their time is their time, and I am always going to bring 100% to every training session with clients and keep it professional. I think this whole season, there have been 1 or 2 times where I'm just like, "Guys, I'm just like, I'm really wiped out, I'm really depleted, we need to reschedule because this is not yeah, this is not gonna go well."
As good as it is, that's why I've always said if I ever got a personal trainer, I would have to be a bodybuilder in their off season, and then when they got in season, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna train with someone else, but as soon as you're done with your show, I'm coming right back to you because yeah, I don't know how you do that because obviously like I myself have had days with my job, but I'm not like having someone pay me to do something like just with them where it's like I do different a little bit different, but still I've even had days where it's like I don't know how I'm gonna pull through with this and you do. But yeah, again, that's the whole side of bodybuilding that I just what before I started this podcast, I had no idea just about that dedication, especially mentally, that just that's what separates you guys, I think, from really any other type of athletics is just the whole mental side of things that, it's not talked about, as much as it should be. But what were some of the looks and stares that you got, especially like in Hawaii? Because, like I said, you're not probably the average person that's in Hawaii, like a female bodybuilder, and even in San Diego. But a lot more people are in shape in San Diego, you think. But like in Hawaii, what was that reaction like? Especially to be walking around on vacation, people to see like this female bodybuilder walking around.
Yeah, it was actually pretty cool. People definitely stopped me on the beach and asked, what I do, and then they were also fans of the sport, and they were like, "Oh, where are you competing next?" And the crazy thing, though, too, is when I was there. So I spent a week on the Big Island, and then we flew over to Maui for a few days. And on the Big Island, everyone was gearing up for the Ironman. So if you know what the Ironman is, it's a triathlon, and it's like the pinnacle. It was like the ultimate Ironman.
Those people are true
So
psychopaths. I just gotta say that.
yeah, so I was actually, I was just like kind of average compared to what I was seeing and witnessing of the Ironman athletes that were training and conditioning while I was on the island. It is intense, just running every single day, cycling every single day. I'm sure, I didn't see them swimming there. There's a certain area I think that they went out to go swimming, but every day putting in hours and hours and hours. So it motivated me, believe it or not.
I had a guest who does that in their off season when they're not bodybuilding. They do Ironmans, and so
Wow.
I don't know that type of level of just craziness. So hey, if I could follow that up and give me that type of energy, I don't understand that. That's the hardest. I mean, Ironman, I don't get how people even do. And first of all, like we talk about having your post show meals. Can you imagine what type of food you'd have after you did an Ironman?
Yeah, you definitely wanna go to a luau and eat a whole pig.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Well, I hate to torture you like this, but what is your one type of food that you're looking forward to most after this prep?
Oh, maybe a good barbecue?
Mhm,
Yeah, a good barbecue, my mom's from St. Louis, and they're famous for their ribs, so,
mhm.
yeah, I can't wait to have some St. Louis style ribs and, the sides and more than the food, it's like the family environment that you get to enjoy at a barbecue, and so I'm looking forward to that.
Is this before Thanksgiving that you're competing?
It is,
Okay, okay,
yeah. I actually compete on my birthday, so
nice.
that's gonna be fun on, November 19th, and then I get to enjoy Thanksgiving after, for sure.
Well, happy early birthday, I gotta say that.
Thank
I
you.
mean, 50 never and I'm just kidding. 50 never looked like 20. No, I was gonna say no, I'm just kidding. But no, it's yeah, happy birthday. And that is
Thanks.
yeah. At least you get to do it before Thanksgiving because you get to enjoy it. So this will be coming out around Thanksgiving because like I told her it's gonna take like a month because I'm like slowing things down a little bit. But what is your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I love all the veggies, of course, like, I am such a
Come
fan of, like,
on.
Brussels sprouts and stuff. Probably the sweet potatoes, like, sweet potatoes with, like, marshmallows and pecans and, like, maple syrup. Oh my god, yeah.
the potatoes for me are probably my favorite, and then yeah, we have a nice turkey, which isn't too bad. But then we also do. My mom makes red Jello, which is pretty nice too. That we have
Oh,
on, and then
Regilla.
yep, red
Okay.
Jello, and then my dad's side of the family they did like the green bean casserole, which was not a fan of that. But yeah,
No.
otherwise, yeah, it is very good. Thanksgiving, yeah, that is the one holiday where I just tell myself, hey, I'm gonna gain probably 2 or 3 pounds by the end of this. But hey, it is all entirely worth it. But I ask you these two questions every single time that we wrap up the podcast, and I will continue to ask you them however long you come on the podcast. If there was one thing that you could change about the sport of bodybuilding and anyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Ooh. One thing that I'd like to see changed, I know now after competing at the pro level, I think that if we could have all shows start maybe not super early in the morning, but mid morning, I think that would be great, and have finals mid afternoon so that everything happens in a period of like 8 hours, but you're not up at 4 or 5 in the morning, that you sleep a little bit. You're not rushed to get to prejudging, so you're a little bit more relaxed, cortisol's in check. I think that'd be great. And then, not making the athletes suffer too long to go ahead and have them back for finals, and not doing a 2-day show, just doing the prejudging and finals in the same window of time. I think that's important too, because it's so difficult to hold that look for 24 hours.
That was like I don't know if I mentioned to you, but I went to my first ever bodybuilding show this last July because it was literally right down the street from where I live. So I was like, hey, might as well. And I met like 4 or 5 guests that I've had on the podcast from the
Oh, awesome.
Midwest area. But I was shocked how long those damn things are too, because it started at like 10 a.m. and it didn't end until like 8 p.m. And
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, I was not prepared for that, just like how long those things go. So yeah, if they could make them go quicker too, and the fact that most of the reason why it goes so long too is because they have just so many people on stage. It's like, just have it be in multiple stages then, or something like that. Just have, I don't know, where
Right. Yeah.
especially
If
when
they
the
can
bikini
hang
girls
out.
take up about an hour themselves just to get everything done, because there's got to be 18 different sets of them walking on the stage. So that's a whole
Mhm.
nother thing too. But yeah, it's that the time thing is something that I don't think a lot of people who, if you haven't been to a show, don't understand just how, like, yeah, to keep that look for that long a period of time, especially sometimes like they have like that 3 or 4 hour break in between, prejudging and post judging too, where it can be hard to even, maintain that as well. So that would be one thing that I would, definitely, look for myself. But this is a question that I just started asking probably like a month after I last had you on. It just goes to show you how good of a host I've been, that it took me like 500 guests to finally start asking this question. But this is the thing that I think to myself every single time I have a bodybuilder or just a health and fitness guest in general that competes on the podcast. And it's just the human nature in me, even though I know the answer and I've talked to so many people about it. It's like, why do these people do this themselves? Why do they put themselves through this? I hear about these prep brain stories. I hear about these off-season stories, and it's just like, why do they do this to themselves? And I mean, obviously, I understand why, because I've talked to hundreds of you guys, but you can lie to me and say that like I've never thought that to myself, or and I'll accept it, but like deep down I'll be like, okay, she's lying, because like every competitor's thought that to themselves at least a dozen times. But how do you respond to that? Because I bet there are people still to this day that talk to you and they're like, Lindsey, why do you put yourself through this? Why do you do this? What is your answer to them?
I love it. That's really my answer. I love it. I have a passion for it. This is my calling right now. So, and it might not be in 2 years, it might not be in 3 years, but for right now, I'm committed to it, and I'm the type of person that's gonna be all in or not. I'm either gonna do it and do it all the way, or it's not gonna happen.
Oh yeah, and it's not forever. I mean, like out of the guests that I've had on, I'd say like 20% of them don't compete now anymore. Because like I'll check in like after like a year, like the guests that I'll like look on their Instagram and see if they're still competing, and yeah, a lot of them don't. So yeah, this is you're not going to be doing this forever. So it's like you might as well enjoy it while you're in it for however long you're in it. Because yeah, this is not.
Mhm.
I mean, again, now I've had those rare competitors on that have done it for like 35 years, and you're just like, okay, how is that even a thing? But just like with any other sport, where like athletes that you get a certain age and then it's just not going to happen for a while. But yeah, so and this drive and this dedication, I mean, it applies to so many other aspects of your life other than just competing. So again, this podcast, I should say, has really just made me appreciate this sport even more, and just realize, like what all goes into it and how much harder it is than a lot of other people might have said that, but yeah, I mean, honestly, for me too, just with the prize money and all that stuff too, would be obviously another thing that I'd fix as well, because it is ridiculous, how like you basically have to win the Olympia to break even doing these shows where it's, that's a whole different conversation, but that is, yeah,
Well,
definitely
the
one of them.
difference in male athletes,
Yep.
purses versus female athletes' purses. Yeah, and I think I would really like to see the female ambassadors of the sport champion that and get behind that need for, a better purse for women, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That is, I mean, you're losing money at most of these shows when you go and compete, and that is just, and I didn't realize, as also as a spectator, how much money these shows cost to just even to attend them, where I was my whole time that I was doing this podcast, I was like, how do these promoters even make money? And then the first minute that I saw that it was like $45, just, and this was an amateur show, just to go to each round of the amateur was like $45, and then I realized like, oh yeah, that's how these guys make their money.
Yeah.
They charge that. So, that's, one of those things where you live and you learn. But yeah, again, more than happy to do that. And Lindsey, when we have you on a year from today, where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding journey? Where would you like to be at just in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved?
Ryan, that's a great question. I'd like to see, things more automated at my gym. That would be fantastic.
Automated how?
Um
Because I've always wondered, like, whenever people talk about automation, I'm like, what are we talking about here?
We're looking at becoming a 24-hour access facility. So automated by, members having maybe like a little scan, or maybe they just type in a code to get access to the gym. So there's no longer the need for an opener and closer, or even, limited front desk hours. That would be great. And then as far as bodybuilding is concerned, racking up points for the Olympia. I want to win a pro show. I have to in my career, I need to win a pro show. And that is the goal, you know? That is the goal. I don't know if it's gonna happen next year or the year after. I'm gonna have to take some time off and let my body rest and then go back at it again and focus on lower body because that's my lagging area. But when I do, you bet I'm gonna bring it. So
Well, geez, when you
yeah.
said automation, I thought you'd have like robots assisting people benching or something like that. That's the first thing that popped in my head. I was like, oh, really? You're gonna have like all like no more trainers now, just because you're gonna have like a machine be like, oh, you got it, like 2 more reps, and then like helping them bench. But no, I'm thinking way too ahead of time, because yeah,
Yeah,
that's
technology's not quite there.
yeah, yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, so that, I mean, yeah, having a 24/7 facility would be nice too, because that, especially when you're someone like me who works just crappy hours, where sometimes I get off at like midnight, it would be nice to like have. I
There's
mean, there are
definitely
gyms around too and
demand.
stuff,
There's
but
a demand for it. So, I think it's smart for a business to shift gears and to fill that demand. So,
absolutely. Well, I mean, again, Lindsey, it was an absolute delight having you on and sharing your
yeah,
journey
thank
with
you,
us. And
Ryan. Thanks for having me. It's always great to chat with you and catch up and know what life's like in Michigan. Now I know that
Minnesota,
spam or Minnesota.
that's the most
Now I
Californian.
know
That's
that
the most Californian thing ever, where they don't even know where the states are in the Midwest space. But hey, we deal. We're
it's
fine.
so bad. I know.
The arrogance of the
Well,
West Coast. Hey, we just to let you know deep down we do hate you guys, but like it's like it's whatever. What are we gonna do about it? But yeah, you know.
I would try spam if I were you, just to see that you did it.
Okay, okay. Don't push your luck too much now here, Lynn. No, I'm just
And
kidding.
let the viewers know what you think, like your honest opinion.
One of these days. That might have to be like a video challenge that I do or something. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
definitely.
will let you know how the intervention goes on my little brother when we bring him back. We'll see if we can turn him straight again and just, get him on the right path again. Where everyone who didn't listen to this, he's become way too Californian now, even though he's been there, about 6 months now. So we will see how that goes. But again, Lindsey, like always, I appreciate having you on. You're one of my favorite guests to have on. I
Yeah,
cannot
thank
wait to
you,
have you
Ryan.
on in a year and see where you're at. And yeah, trust me, the moment that you do win your pro card, I will have you. I mean, not your pro card, your first pro show. I will have you back on and talk about that experience, because
Awesome.
that's great. But again, everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.